So I've never really told this story before, only my family and friends know it. And it's honestly one of the craziest stories that's ever happened to me. So I figured why not share it here now that I have a YouTube channel. So imagine this, you're about to buy the house of your dreams, the deal's practically done, and less than 24 hours before signing the official paper at the notary, you get a phone call. The seller has died. In the bathtub. That's exactly what happened to me almost 5 years ago. I'm gonna get a coffee and then we get going. So let's go back to the beginning, before we even started house hunting. We were living in one of my brother's apartments in his triplex, and we'd been there for about 3 years. And it worked for us until we had our second child. So at first it was me, Fiona, and our first son. And as soon as Fiona gave birth to our second child, that's when she started saying, like, we need another bedroom, we need a bigger house, we need to live in a nicer neighborhood. And she wasn't wrong. The area we were living in wasn't great. If you're from Montreal and I said the name of the municipality, you'd say, ooh, that's sketchy. It's definitely a ghetto-ish neighborhood. And just to show you how bad it really was, there was this one time Fiona was pregnant and we had an early appointment at the hospital. I back out of the driveway and we see a SWAT team truck blocking the road. All the officers with riot shields, shotguns, literally just all marching towards this apartment building nearby. And it was like a Call of Duty scene. That, I think, was the point where we were like, holy smokes, I think it's time for us to move. The thing is that after living there for 3 years, I was used to it. I don't think Fiona was ever used to it. She was always sending me house listings, She was sending me houses that were way overpriced, over budget, or just houses that were in really fancy neighborhoods I couldn't afford. So one Saturday morning, I decided to do my own search. So I opened up my phone, I go on the Realtor app, and I filter my search. And that's when I found it. Now, Fiona might tell you otherwise, but trust me, I found it. I knew it was the one. It was listed at $320,000. It was a bungalow on a corner lot with an in-ground pool. Really, the pictures made it look perfect on the inside. I thought I saw hardwood floors, and really the location was amazing. I knew the area from, I guess, when I was in my teenage years. It's a quiet area, it's a family-oriented area. So I did my research. I went on Google Earth and I did the whole looking and stalking the property. And I called my buddy Felix. He's an old friend from high school. Now he's a real estate agent. I told him to offer $280,000, which was $40,000 under asking price. He kind of laughed and said, like, yo, dude, you still haven't even visited the house. But I told him, like, let's just offer this and see if they say no or whatever. We'll see what happens, Like, I like to live by the you miss 100% of the shots you don't take methodology. Or maybe I'm just cheap. I don't know. Whatever it is, I was serious about this house. Surprisingly, instead of the sellers laughing at us or being insulted, the next day they came back to us with a counter offer. They offered $310,000, and I had 24 hours to make a decision. Looking back now, $310,000 is a no-brainer. It's a steal of a deal. But back then, it was a huge amount of money for me. I'm the breadwinner in the family. Fiona takes care of the kids, and I've kind of always hustled to keep money coming in between freelancing as a graphic and web designer and working, full-time jobs at software companies or agencies. $310,000 was the absolute maximum I was comfortable borrowing from the bank. So I talked it over with Felix and we agreed on the condition that the home inspection didn't uncover any major issues. Now, if you've ever done a house inspection, you know that home inspection uncovers a lot of things. And when I say a lot, I mean like a 100-page document of things that are problematic with the house. Some are small, some are big. In this case, the first thing that I noticed the minute I stepped in with the home inspector is that what I thought was hardwood floors was linoleum floors, which is just plastic with a hardwood floor print on it. So that was a bit of a bummer to begin with. And then after the home inspector discovered that all of the electrical and the wiring is all aluminum, which is no good. And he also mentioned that the siding was bad and needed replacing, and that the roofing is not leaking, but it's definitely overdue. And there was also probably another 50 or 60 pages of little things here and there on the property and the house that needed to be fixed. All in all, I saw the house, I saw the property, and I saw the potential. I liked it. The structure is good. So we negotiated again. We lowered the price another $10,000, and they accepted, which brought the price down to $300,000. By March 7th, 2020, we signed the contract, and we had the notary date set for May 1st. So now was the waiting game. We just had to wait 7 weeks, and the house was ours. But we already thought that the house was ours. We thought it was a done deal. We were so confident that we started planning renovations. I booked another appointment with the seller to get all of the measurements of every room, every inch, every corner. I measured everything wall to wall. So I had all the plans. I spent weeks searching for flooring. So I searched on Marketplace, I looked in stores, and finally found on Marketplace 1,100 square feet of hardwood flooring for $3,200, and I stored that at my parents' house in my old bedroom. Then I designed a kitchen, hours and hours of work designing. Thank you, Mom, for all of your help. And once I was happy with it, I purchased the IKEA kitchen because they had this crazy deal. I can't remember if it was spend $5,000 and get a $1,000 gift card, something like that. So I definitely didn't want to miss my opportunity on that one. So I pulled the trigger and I paid for the kitchen. We also visited the neighborhood twice during our wait just to get a better feel for the neighborhood. We'd park nearby, take a walk around the block, and we'd also take pictures of the property every time we swung by, because the first time we saw the house, it was all covered in snow, the floor, we couldn't even see the grass. But as the weeks went on, we started noticing things we hadn't before. One day we saw the pool. It was covered, but man, the area around it was overgrown and it looked like it was abandoned. Fast forward a few weeks, and on April 30th, just 22 hours before signing at the notary, like when it's officially keys in my hand and it's our house, I get a phone call. It's the notary. And she says, "Mateo, I don't have good news. Are you sitting down?" So I sit down and she says, "You won't be coming into my office tomorrow because the seller was found dead in the bathtub last night." My first reaction was, wait, like in my bathtub? And that's when I started to, oh my God, the questions in my head. I was absolutely in shock. How does this affect the deal? Can we still close the deal with him being dead? Is there any way we can move forward? But the notary explained to me that it was impossible, legally speaking. It was impossible to move forward, and that the seller's death essentially froze everything in its tracks. She was more worried about us. She was constantly asking, like, where are you gonna go now? Do you have to move? Are you okay staying? Like, you need to move out of your apartment. Thankfully, since we were living in my brother's triplex, we didn't have to worry about eviction or anything like that. My brother had been planning to move into our apartment once we left, but he just put that idea on pause for now. But obviously, the whole situation could have been way worse if we were renting somewhere and we told the landlord that we would have been out by a specific date. I'm assuming that there could have been some legal battles there, but luckily for us on that front, we were okay where we were. After hanging up, I can't remember if Fiona cried, but I'm assuming she did. We had been so certain that the house was ours. I had bought a bunch of materials, for the renovations. So yeah, you could just imagine how devastated we were in this situation. Obviously, rest in peace, the guy died, but we had, thought about our future in this house, and then everything kind of fell through the cracks. So I called up Felix to talk about the situation. And as friends, we obviously started speculating how this might have happened. Like, what happened? Was it a heart attack? Did he slip and fall in the bathtub? Maybe he dropped a plugged-in toaster in his bath. Like, was it a suicide? I know it sounds dark, but, humor was the only way I could process how insane this situation was for us. A few days later, we learned from the sellers or the seller's broker that he hadn't packed a single box or even started planning his move. Like, he didn't find movers to help him move. He didn't find a new apartment. It was almost like he wasn't even planning to leave. He was only 64 years old, which isn't that old. And the coroner's report later confirmed that it was natural causes, most probably a heart attack. For the next month, there was almost no progress. The notary explained that the seller's kids, or the seller's children, he had 2 kids, were now responsible for settling the estate. And she also told me that the process could take a long time. Like, she said that for a house, sometimes the process could take 9 months, sometimes it could take a year. So already we were like not super stoked about that, but it is what it is. We were unlucky in that situation, and now we had to either wait it out or just call off the deal. So obviously, like anyone would have done, I kept looking at other options, at other houses, but this now was in peak COVID. And as some of you might know, the market was absolutely crazy. Every house I liked or every house I went to go visit was going for way over asking price. Like, they were overbidding. At one point, I found a 2-story home listed at $395,000. It was really nice. Like, for us, it would have been a mini mansion. It was much bigger than the original house we found. So I offered $380,000 with no inspection, but within hours, the seller received 3 offers. So Felix calls me and asks me if I wanted to raise my offer. And so I went all in. I matched their asking price. I did $395,000 with no inspection. And as soon as I did that, I remember being like, why did I offer that much? I knew I could afford it, and I knew how much the bank pre-approved me for, but it was going to be super tight every month. Like, I did not want to be in that situation. So the next day, we found out that it sold for $415,000. And so I was shocked, but I was actually more relieved than shocked. I was happy of losing that house at that price, because it made me realize how lucky we were to have that first bungalow in our back pockets, like just waiting. Being able to rely and fall back on that first house we found at $300,000 was honestly like amazing. It was such an incredible deal that we had, and now it was like up to the kids to, I guess, settle the estate and finalize that deal we had going on. So months went by with very little news. I would call my notary about once a month to ask her, what's up? Like, how's the process going? Did you hear anything from the kids? And most of the time she'd just say, nope, no news. So just keep being patient. And yeah, it was somewhat frustrating, but there was really nothing I could do about it. In the meantime, Fiona and I were still driving by the house about once a month, just to go look, at the neighborhood, the street, the house. So one time we swing by and we noticed something super strange. All the bushes around the yard and a few trees were chopped down to the ground. And it was like, whoa. Finally, we could see the backyard, but like, what the hell's going on? So I jump on a call with my notary to give her the situation, tell her the situation. I send her a few pictures, and she immediately calls the seller's kids to remind them that they're not allowed to modify the property while the deal's pending. So at some point in time, I did get a text message from one of the kids He invited me over to see if I wanted to buy any of the furniture that was in the house. So I said yes, but not to buy anything. I just wanted to swing by and have a chat with him, pay my respects, and chat about the estate. How is it settling the estate? Like when do we have a date? And he told me that in just a few weeks we should have a date set with the notary. So that was incredibly promising. And next thing you know, a few weeks later, we finally get the notary date. And so yeah, then it was a waiting game. The notary date was set for September 11th, 2020. And it's a date I'll never forget because, well, it's 9/11, and you know, hindsight is always 2020. So 9/11, 2020. Anyways, 5 months after the seller died, and a total of 7 months since we thought the house was ours, we signed the contract at the notary. It was official. After all the waiting we did, it was finally ours. By then, you know, similar houses in the area were selling for like $450,000. So just by being patient, we'd gained so much value. Did we move in? Of course not. We immediately started renovating the first floor. New kitchen, new flooring, new bathroom, obviously. And that bathtub, well, I ended up selling it on Marketplace for $200. There was no way I was gonna keep that bathtub. This whole experience taught me that nothing is guaranteed. Even when it feels like a done deal, it ain't over till it's over. If you're buying a house from an older person, don't wait. Get that signature as quickly as possible. If you have any crazy home buying story, I want to hear it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the video, hit the like, subscribe, and stick around. I've got some crazy DIY projects for you, home transformations you probably don't want to miss. See you soon.